Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we've got a game 2 in the NBA Finals here slated for Sunday, June the 4th. We are recording this well ahead of time on Friday for you guys, looking at some of the earlier lines and props that we have available, going over best bets for game 2 in this one. Also want to make sure you like and subscribe to that page. You can check out the play props that we have up for you guys as always, and head to thelines.com and check out the site, everything we've got on there, including that odds finder tool, a nice little chart right there in front of you with all of the books odds for each of these bets you want to make in the NBA, this NBA Finals. Pretty good last game. We each got a pick right here for the best bets video anyway. Much better in player props where we slayed, but still up, I believe, a smidge of a unit there, just because we got some plus odds too on some margin stuff that I had in the first quarter. But let's go ahead and jump right into your first best bet for game 2 here, Nate.
Yeah, we almost hit that Heat +9 parlay in the under, but Nikola Jovic had a clowny performance there at the last possession of garbage time that did not get the backdoor cover.
No.
But I'm talking about Nikola Jokic, of course, who, in our series preview here was saying +110 for him to lead the series in scoring. If you didn't believe that before the first game, you should now, and you can still get good odds at FanDuel, +105 for him to be the leading scorer and the Nuggets to win the series, which I don't think anybody believes is not going to happen right now. I know you had a few media members contrarily saying Heat in 6. I think they would even walk it back after that thorough domination in game 1. I mean, not to say Miami isn't going to come back. We'll get into that later. Look, I'm just going to talk about Jokic here. And even though he started really, really passive because he was like, all right, how are you going to defend me? You're going to, you're going to let me facilitate from the elbow like I always do. And only a 7% usage rate in the first quarter. His last 3 first quarters, he has 6 total points, and he's only taken 6 field goal attempts, yet he's still freaking finished with insane numbers, because the last 3 second halves, 56 points on 38% usage. So it's just a situation where, I mean, whether it's the other team allowing things or trying to do something, he gets everybody going, and then he just says, all right, now that you're going to try to stop all that action, let me just show you that I can score as soon as you leave me open. I think Miami, like I was saying going into this series, is going to lean more into just accepting him as a scorer and staying home on Michael Porter Jr. and other guys and making sure that they can compete in that sense. And just go back and forth. And look, so for him to be the leading scorer, he's going to have to outscore Jamal Murray, who did have 26 in game 1. But, I mean, for the Joker to finish with 27 after that completely passive first half just tells me, he can just score with such ease. Like, it was 3 for 3 in the first half, 10 points. Like, 12 shots for 27 points. Like, he could score anytime. And Miami probably going to more zone now, which, maybe you think it leads to more assists, Josh. I personally think that will lead to more points for Joker. Because you get the ball in the middle, and you say, where's the gaps? All right, everybody's covered out on the wing because they're ready to flash out with the zone, but I'm just going to drop this in from the middle of the floor where I'm the best scorer in the world. And I mean, yeah, as the series have gone longer, as the playoffs have gone deeper, he's just been better and better throughout his career. Averaged 28 in the Western Conference semifinals. That's 24 games. He's averaging 31.5 since the first round this year on a 31.5% usage rate. So now leads the playoffs in usage rate, ahead of Jimmy, who's 3rd, and Jamal, who's 4th. But we actually saw Bam be much more of the focal point of Miami's offense in game 1. I don't know if you're going to think Jimmy is going to fade away entirely. Certainly not, but I mean, he just hasn't really been the same guy. I'll look at that in player props more. I'll just say straight up that I love the fact that you can get even money for Joker to outscore Jimmy in game 2, because I don't think Jimmy is going to be a 30-plus point guy reliably. Like, he might have spike games, but we've only seen that literally once since he went out of his body to beat the Bucks. And, so, I mean, is Bam going to continue to match points with Joker? Maybe. He had 26 in game 1. So I'll just throw out that there's a nice little side bet for Bam to plus 1,100 to be the first person to score 10 in game 2 if they continue with that. Because right now they have no answers for Jokic whatsoever, other than like, okay, Bam, like make him work on the other end. Like you're gonna play 43 minutes. You're literally the only option. Cody Zeller, as predicted, was absolute food for Jokic. And yeah, there's just a complete lack of size for Miami. That was a problem from the jump, and the Joker's going to continue to exploit that.
Is it reductive to say that the Denver Nuggets are going to win this series because they're bigger and better? Like, it's not reductive, right? Like, that's what it is. There's three dudes that are the size of the starting center for the Heat on the starting lineup for the Nuggets. So what are you supposed to do with that? Yeah, I mean, for Joker, like, let me just touch on poor Cody Zeller. Just get him out of the way. I don't know why Kevin Love didn't see a minute. That's one thing that's got to be changed, right, in this next one. Like, even if Kevin Love gets like 8, 11 minutes, he doesn't need to play 25, but he's got to get out there. He can do so much more than Zeller. But Cody Martin, underwhelming. So much to take away from that game one to look at. But just to hit on your bet for Joker leading point getter and bring in the assist conversation briefly, like, he can do it whenever he wants. We know that he's been able to do it. He could do it against DeAndre Ayton. He could do it against Anthony Davis. He could do it against Rui with Anthony Davis coming over to guard him on the secondary. He can do it in a house with a mouse. You get my point. So yeah, I agree that like it doesn't matter if they're playing zone or not for him to be able to get his points, right? It wouldn't matter if they were able to just sort of take their pick of the litter of any free agent they wanted right now and they could throw him on their team legally. It still wouldn't matter, right? There's nobody out there in the league really that is the guy to guard him. So I think you can always safely rely on the fact that when it comes time for the ball to go in the net, and it's like nut crunching time for the way we talk about it, that's what we saw in this last game in the fourth quarter. It was like, all right, their Heat are coming back. They're down 15. I'm Jokic. I come down. I'm making a pass. All right, we bricked it. They score. I come down, make a pass. We brick it. That happened like 2 or 3 possessions in a row. And then finally he goes, okay, I guess I will just score. And then he scored 4 straight and then hit a 3. So I think it doesn't matter what the circumstances are at this point. He knows that if he needs to get a bucket, he will. And that's why I'm always happy to need to depend on him to be a leading scorer, to score more points than his prop, etc. He scored 12 in the fourth. It was incredible. But I do think, just to finish it off with about the assist, which we'll talk about more in player props, like I think you have to try zone a little bit. It worked in the fourth quarter for a while until they had to come out of it and play full court press and come back into a man right after that. But like, the fact that it worked at the beginning of the fourth quarter could be attributed to the idea that the Nuggets were playing slothy at that point and sludgy and really lackadaisical, and that helped the Heat come back at the beginning of that fourth quarter. It wasn't really the zone, but if you're Eric Spoelstra, it's like whatever. If even that is the case, I have to test it out again, and I need to play a little bit more zone. And if that is the case, I do like him to dice it up rather than necessarily plant himself in the middle. He can do both, but I do think he'll continue to try to dice it up, and we'll talk about that more in player props. I'm going to move on to my second pick. Well, I guess it's my first pick, which is Miami to score more. 102.5. Like, I'm just trying to find ways to go, like, you can't be that bad again, right? Like it wasn't even just the 3-point shooting, because thanks to Kyle Lowry and Gabe Vincent in the second half, they ended up going 13 for 39 from deep, which is bad. It's 33%, and they need to shoot around 40 to win this series. That's not even a question. But the 40% from the field is brutal. It's Jimmy twos and Bam. Like, as good as Bam was, he was wildly inefficient. I think they're going to find better ways to score, especially because of the way that they shot in that first half. Those missed threes to me looked like not really tired legs. They looked like jitters, because they were clanking off the side of the rim. They were clanking off the side of the backboard. There were some that were going too hard off the backboard. It was a lot more of just like, I've never, well, a few of them have, but these lights are a little bit brighter, and that's what we were seeing. And I think they can settle down a bit from that. The 2 free throws, which came from Haywood Highsmith, he was the only person to shoot free throws for the Miami Heat. That's another thing that obviously Jimmy specifically called out after the game that he is going to personally try to rectify. I do feel bad about picking on Jimmy at this point. Like, I agree with you that the coincidence, or the moment in time that changed everything was not just, we're not playing the Bucks anymore. It was that he got hurt in game 1 of that Knicks series, and then he missed game 2. And ever since that ankle injury, he's had one 35-point game, 129, 128. And then after that, it was everything like 27 and below, with frequently getting under 20 points since that time. So I do think there's something to be said for that because of the fact that he's not just going and getting after it, doing what Jokic does when they need a bucket and making sure that he can just go get one for his team. I think there's that's real, but I still believe in the shooters for Miami, which they know that they need to change. Max Strus going 0 for 9, Duncan 1 for 5. There's the possibility that Hero comes back. You might think that could disrupt things, but I think they're hungry for an offensive player that can get his own shot and make a contested 3 and a wide open 3 at this point, the way that they were in that last game. So I'm just going to assume that 102.5 points is something that they can achieve. And I think Denver's going to shoot better as well. So, I still think Denver's likely to win this game too, but the 103 points that they need for this bet on their team prop, I feel good about it.
Yeah, then I guess you would take over 214, even though we went way under in game one. But yeah, I agree with you in the sense that Miami's going to have positive regression. It might come on the defensive end as well. I don't know if Denver's going to score that much. I mean, they had a really positive second half defensively, mixing in some of that zone, as you mentioned, which, to me, it's a similar bet. It's just say Miami at this big spread, which they were still only half a point away from covering in garbage time there as they crawl back into the game with a nice 83 defensive rating in that fourth quarter, plus 15 net in the entire second half after it, the Nuggets clearly knew they had it in hand, so they let up a little bit. Yeah. But Miami entered this season, this series 7-3 against the spread on the road with a pretty much even net rating. They entered leading the playoffs in catch and shoot percentage. So to your point that they're not going to miss 14 threes, those two guys. They went 5 for 16 on wide open shots. The entire team did versus shooting nearly 50% on those looks in the Celtics series. And Jimmy, he had a playoff low in terms of drives. Like, he's going to be better. We're not saying exactly. We're not dumping on him or saying he's not that guy. But I mean, I don't know if he's going to be scoring 30 is all I'm saying. It's a tough matchup for him against Aaron Gordon, against this Nuggets defense, but it's not a tough matchup for Bam, who was just all over the place, just getting buckets whenever. Gabe Vincent, Kyle Lowry both looked good against the point guard guarding them. So I do think Miami has some positive regression on offense, and just that I trust, Spoelstra and the Geek Squad, as I could call them, to just comb through this film and do enough things to just throw a wrench into it. To again, the reason I like the under in game one is because Miami is going to try to drag you into the mud every time. They're going to do that in the second half. They are a great second half team. All playoffs, plus 10 net in that second half. So even if Denver comes out to another hot start and it looks like they're going to blow them out again, just beware that this game is probably going to end with Miami scrapping to at least make it close.
And a big scrapper and contributor to that is Kyle Lowry, who we still don't have props up for, but I am going to continue to target it because I do think I haven't been able to use this phrase in a while, but I think he's kind of the adult in the room at times with that backcourt and the revolving door of shooters that they have. I mean, he's not necessarily taking Gabe Vincent's spot. They were on the floor together when they were trying to make that comeback in the second half. So I think we can expect to see more of that. And that's why I'm taking Gabe Vincent here with the last best bet. I just take his points, honestly. I was looking at ways to get more juice or figure it out. It's plus odds for him to hit 3 threes in a lot of these books, and probably feel good about that, with the 3 threes as well. But the 13 points is just low for a guy who continues to have the third highest usage rate on the team, and last game was second on the starting lineup in terms of his usage rate because we saw Jimmy shoot the ball so infrequently. So I thought Vincent might have looked a little bit bothered by the moment in Game 7. I think he just had an off shooting night. He made some poor decisions in that game, but he made a couple poor decisions in this last game as well. But he's getting the 35 to 40 minutes, played 37 plus in this last one. And like I said, with the usage and the cojones, I don't think he's he's slinking away or shrinking during this moment in time. I do see him continuing to play well. 5 of 7 of his last 7, he's had at least 13 points, 16 points per game in 35 minutes over those last 7. with 49% from the field and 51 from deep, with like 2.9 threes made a game, which, is why his prop, I think his 3-point prop is where it's at. He's pretty much 18% in terms of usage rate every game. That's equated to about 13 to 14 field goal attempts. He could be more efficient at times too with the way he's scoring, and I think he'll continue to pull. So that's what I look for, right? Is just who's going to continue to pull the shots. We talk about that. And he likes playing Denver as well, because he's gotten minutes in the last 4 that he's played against Denver, including this season. There was one where he got 16 minutes. I think he tweaked something in that game as well, and didn't play that much, only scored 3 points, but he's gotten at least 13 in 3 of the last 4 that he's played them. So I'm going to continue to ride with Gabe.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. If he was, if you thought maybe he was scared of the moment in Game 7, he seemed like the only Heat player who was not scared in Game 1 of the finals. Like, he was the only guy scoring efficiently. I mean, Bam was going at them. He wasn't necessarily very efficient, though, against that Denver defense. And Jimmy just kind of shrunk away, as we saw in really 2 of the last 3 against the Celtics series. So somebody's going to have to pick up the slack. If Hero does come back, I guess that might throw a wrench into the projections, but I still think Vincent plays plenty. Like, he's become really one of the more important players here. Yeah. And Caleb Martin turning into a pumpkin, at least in one game, makes a big difference in terms of, like, all right, who else is going to step up once again? Caleb apparently only that guy when he's playing the Celtics, but so Gabe Vincent, sure. Yeah, let's keep riding him.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to, is who's going to be the least impacted as well if Tyler Hero does come back. I think Vincent is the starting point guard on this team. I don't think Hero is expected to be that at this point. If anything, Hero gives you the freedom to sort of play less Max Strus or Duncan Robinson, whomever is not shooting well, right? Like, would you agree that, like, Hero steals those 2 guys' minutes before he takes Gabe Vincent's?
Yeah, or maybe some of Caleb Martin's, because he was not great defensively either.
Yeah, Caleb Martin, man, that was brutal to watch, and like I think I feel comfortable continuing to fade him. The Bucks don't even have his props up right now, despite the fact that he's been a starter for 3 games in a row. So we'll see what happens here. That is all the time we have for you in Best Bets. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page, and check out the play props we have up for you as well. And until we see you next, happy betting.